welcome everyone. This is going to be the introductory video for Math 0308 Introductory Algebra. And I'm also going to give information for Math 0106 Pre-Algebra. That's the co-requisite course with Introductory Algebra. I am the instructor for both of these. Most of you are in both of these courses, although there are a few students that are just in 0308. So maybe you took 0106 previously or tested out of it in some capacity. Just want to introduce myself. My name is Michael Dean. I'm part of the full-time math faculty at the Kingwood campus for Lone Star College. Before this, I worked at Houston Community College. I got both my bachelor's and my master's degree from the University of Houston. And my bachelor's was mathematical biology, master's in mathematics. That's not where I started though. My first degree was an associate's in science from Houston Community College. So like y'all, I was also a community college student. And if you're ever interested in hearing about my personal experience transferring from community college to a four-year university, I'm always happy to talk about that because there's a lot of benefits and then also some challenges to that situation. I love my job here. I love mathematics, and I hope to pass that on to you all as we go through this semester together. So let's start with looking at the layout of our D2L course. You'll see two courses show up most likely for 0308. We're going to be using the one that has the suspension bridge image and the one that says 0308 2C03. The other one is extra. We'll just work exclusively out of this D2L course. And then the one for 0106, you should just see one that has this image, and it also says 2C03. That's our section number. So let's take a look at our introductory algebra D2L layout. So when you enter, you'll first see the announcements page, and this is where I'll send weekly communications describing what we're working on each week, what homework assignments are due and upcoming due dates and all of that. And I'll also send a copy of this announcement to your email address, to your Lone Star email address. So that's how I will communicate with you all. If you click on content, you'll be able to see each of the sections. I try to stay as minimal as possible. There'll be a start here section that kind of describes what we're about to go through. It describes the general layout. There's a course document section that will contain the syllabus and the course calendar. This section called ALEKS, A-L-E-K-X, that's how we'll access our homework system. This is an online math system, which is essentially our textbook. This is where you can access the ebook and then also our homework and exam assignments. So we'll describe how to gain access to this a little bit later. Then there's a notes and videos section that contains lecture notes, section notes, and videos that I've previously recorded. And then there's a section to submit your work for exams. So let's take a look at the syllabus and get a general idea of the course structure. So inside of course documents, the first link is for the syllabus. So let's take a look. I mentioned I'm at the Kingwood campus. My office is in the library building in LIB 206B. It's on the second floor. So if you ever want to attend office hours, or if you ever want to meet to discuss the course or any issues, that's where my office will be. However, I recommend sending me an email beforehand, just because I'll be teaching in a different building and I'm typically kind of here and there about campus. So just let me know ahead of time. But I will be there Monday through Thursday, and I'll have regular office hours, typically in the afternoon from about like 12:30 until 3. That's where I'll be open to meet with students. So just let me know ahead of time. This is my email address, michael.j.dean@lonestar.edu. So I'll be sending you all emails from this address with our weekly announcements, and this is the best way to communicate with me. My office phone number is here, but to be honest, I've never used this phone. I'm usually out and about around campus, and I communicate via email. You're also welcome to send me a message through D2L if you prefer that method as well. But I'll get the emails to my phone, and I'm usually pretty quick at responding. So that can be any questions about the content, help with the homework. I can write up a little response and draw out some examples and send it as an email reply. There's some division contact information here. So that's the dean, department chair, and the staff assistant. But more importantly is our required text and technology. So we do have a textbook, however, the physical copy is not required. What is required is access to this system called ALEKS, A-L-E-K-X. If you've ever done math homework in some kind of online system, you might be familiar with the way that it's set up. It's a pretty typical online homework system. So this will contain all of our assignments and exams, and then also ebook access. So you don't need a physical copy. However, if you're like me and you like physical textbooks, I'm more like a tactile kind of learner, so I like to have a book in my hands. I'd recommend maybe finding a used copy. It's called Introductory Algebra, 2nd edition by Messersmith. A few other authors too, but you'll probably see Messersmith as the first listed author. So I'll show us how to access this system. That will be our next task in the video. So apart from getting access to this, you will also need for exams Lockdown Browser, which is a program that if you don't already have this downloaded, you might be familiar with this, maybe you used it previously. It's basically a browser that will keep you from going to other tabs, like it keeps you from looking at other information while you're taking the exam. And then the exams are proctored digitally via webcam, so you'll need don't worry about finding Lockdown Browser if you don't have it when you take the first exam. We actually have a practice assignment as our first homework where you'll practice using these tools. It'll just prompt you to download it. It's a pretty quick download and install. If you don't have a webcam, or if you feel uncomfortable taking the exam from home, you can schedule to take the exam at a testing center where they'll proctor you there. Or you can take it during office hours. You can come and take it on campus with me. I'm available to do that as long as it's scheduled ahead of time. And then the last thing you'll need is a calculator. I put a recommendation here for the one that I used. It's a TI-36X Pro, about $20 on Amazon. Really, you just need a general scientific calculator. And then also a notebook for taking notes, working out problems, and then you'll submit your exam work whenever you complete your exams, meaning you'll take some photos or scans of your written work so that I can give some partial credit and see your thought process. So long story short, just saying you'll need some kind of supply of scratch paper, maybe a notebook or something. All right, there's no prerequisites for this course. This course is itself the prerequisite for college algebra. So you'll be learning skills that will be directly relevant to that course. And college algebra is kind of the main math course that everybody is, most everybody is required to take for your degree plan. So this course is about kind of two main topics, although there's many subtopics within them. But I would say that this course is mainly about solving equations with 1 and 2 variables. So like solving an equation for x, that sort of thing, and those can get pretty complex. And then also equations of lines and graphs of lines and relationships between lines. And then also another main topic is polynomials. You may not have heard that term before if you've ever solved a quadratic equation or something like that, maybe in high school. That's an example of a polynomial. It's a larger class of objects, but a quadratic is one example of that. So the class finishes with factoring and solving quadratic equations. So that's definitely a huge topic in college algebra. So this course will help you build the foundational skills that will really help you to succeed in that course. So you can read through the description and the outcomes. These learning outcomes aren't exactly in the order that we'll go through, but they have them listed out here. This, in terms of attendance participation, this is an online course. It's asynchronous, meaning that we don't meet for lecture times. So it's self-paced in that way, where you'll have to, on your own, look at the textbook sections, read the notes, and watch videos. But there are due dates throughout the semester, so you can't wait until the end of the semester. So it's the student's responsibility to basically keep up with the content. It's a quick semester. We're doing this in the summer. It's really easy in math classes in general to get behind. So keeping up with the due dates will help you stay on top of everything. We have the drop and withdraw dates here. The last day to drop is pretty quick. That's already this upcoming Monday on the 14th. And then the last day to withdraw from the course is the 5th of August. If you're unsure about the difference between these two, dropping the course gives you a refund, and it doesn't show up anywhere on your transcript. Withdrawing doesn't give you a refund, but it gives you just a W on your transcript instead of an F, so it keeps the class from affecting your GPA. So let's say after the first exam, you realize that you'd rather take the course maybe during a longer semester in the fall and spring. You can withdraw, and this will keep the class from affecting your overall college GPA. All right, I mentioned that my email is the best way to contact me. These following paragraphs are pretty standard, just general syllabus information. You've probably seen these in other classes, so feel free to read through these. But let's skip to the grading setup and our course calendar. And this is a pretty useful set of links here if you need some help with general college resources. All right, the grade setup, I keep things pretty simple. It's really just split between homework assignments and exams. The homework is 30% overall of your final grade, and exams are 70% of your final grade. So it's a pretty common split between homework and exams. The overall grading distribution is standard A, B, C, and F. You can't be given a D in this class. It's either C or F. And if you're on the edge, like if you have an 89.5, I'll round that up to an A. So I'll do some rounding at the end. There'll be basically 2 homework assignments per week, except for our first week we just have 1. That's our like practice exam assignment. It just has like 2 questions on there. It's really just to test the lockdown browser and webcam setup. And then for the following weeks, there'll be 2 per week due to our faster summer pace. You'll complete them in the ALEX system, and you can do a late submission, but with a 5% penalty per day. And that'll be on just the late questions. So let's say you finish 80% of the homework by the due date, but you want to complete the whole assignment, and you finish the remaining questions maybe the next day. Just those remaining questions will have the 5% penalty. So yeah, so I'll also drop your lowest 2 homework grades at the end of the semester. And then for exams, we'll just have 2, basically a midterm and a final for the summer semester. I have the dates here. I have them copied in a few different places, but you may want to already place this on your calendar. The first exam is due by the 28th of July, and then the second exam is due by the 16th of August. They'll also be completed in the ALEX system. I mentioned the webcam and lockdown browser. The lockdown browser has previously had issues with Chromebooks. I think this has been resolved more recently, but if you're working out of a Chromebook, just let me know if there's any issues with completing our first test assignment. That'll be homework 1. You'll be able to see if there's any kind of technical issue there. And then I mentioned this earlier, but if you don't own a webcam or feel uncomfortable taking the exams at home, you can do that in a testing center or during office hours. There's no late submissions for exams because I'll release the results pretty quickly. So if you have any issues with these due dates, just let me know ahead of time. And they'll be open for a whole window, like about a week you'll have to do them. So say if you want to take it on, like for the first exam on a Sunday instead of Monday, you'll be able to do that. But if there's issues about timing, just let me know beforehand. If it's after the fact, then there's nothing much I can do about it. And then let's see. I mentioned written work has to be submitted as well, so I can see your thought process and see your work. This is also how I'll give partial credit, and I'll show you where to submit that in D2L. And then beneath this, I have our course calendar. let's see. Oh no, first some other general policies. I reiterate the latent makeup work statements that I said earlier. I put some general course suggestions, class policies here, just basically saying homework is due on Mondays at 11:59, but you should be attempting them before then, so you have time to ask questions and kind of work through the material. Before attempting the homework, you should look at the textbook sections, watch videos, review the lecture notes so you have some kind of foundation, because it can be frustrating just jumping into the homework without having some context. And then there's also some additional ways of getting help within the system, like looking at an example and looking at the ebook, and I'll show you all how to access that when we're in the ALEX system. And then I put some general advice and suggestions on how to get help and how to succeed in the course. So feel free to read through those. All right, here's the course schedule. We have just 6 quick weeks for the summer semester, and the first week is already this week, so really it's 5 weeks of content. I'll show you another version of this schedule that has links to all of our lecture notes and videos, so you'll probably most likely work out of that one. But just to get a general overlook, I have this split up into our different weeks, and then I have it basically set up as if we were an in-person class. In class Monday through Thursday. So you can use this as a way of splitting up your week, splitting up the time of maybe learning the content. So the first column is the week, the second column is the sections that we'll go over. So like we have 2.1 and 2.2 for the first half of the first week. The third column is the homework assignment that's associated with those sections. So like homework 2 is over 2.1 and 2, homework 3 is over 2.3 through 5, so you can know where to look. And then I have the due dates for the homework. So homework 2 and 3 are both due on the 21st of July. So you can read it through week by week, get an idea of what we're going to cover. And then I have the exam dates here as well, when they'll be due. And I have that also repeated down here. So again, I'll show you all the other version of this that has the links embedded within it, so you can use that to work out of. All right, let's head back to our D2L page. So also inside of course documents, I have another copy of the schedule, and then this is kind of a fun side project I'm working on. This is just kind of extra, it's not an assignment or anything, but I'm building this document on a brief history of mathematics. So if you're curious about what it is that we're doing and how far back it goes in human history, it basically goes back to as far back as writing and language, and maybe even a little bit farther. So like as far back as like 30,000 BC. That's when the first evidence of us like notching and counting things on bones used for like keeping track of things. So it's a pretty cool document. Each of these are links to Wikipedia pages. So you open it up. This is that thing I was talking about. Let me go back. But it covers like a few main periods, like the prehistoric, the classical mathematical period, which is like the Greeks. So that's like classic Pythagoras, Euclid, Archimedes. You might have heard some of these names before. But also during that time, there was a lot of work happening in Chinese mathematics as well. And then through the medieval time period, this is where the Arabic mathematicians made a huge impact, and early modern mathematics and 19th century, more of the modern stuff. So there's a little description within each section about what that time period was about. So this is just for fun if you want to look through this. The thing that I get out of this is seeing that this work that we're doing, this topic that we're learning, is as ancient to humanity as like reading, writing, and culture in general. It's something that we've been doing for a really long time. And it has sprung up in different cultures like separately across the globe. So it doesn't belong to just one part of humanity. It's deeply embedded within the human species itself, as deep as language is. So there's a lot of interesting characters throughout this story, and it's actually really interesting. If you want to just look at the general history of mathematics Wikipedia page, it's pretty cool. But if you want to look at some of the more modern things here, you can see kind of how far out math has gotten in this day and age. So I just wanted to show this to you all. It's mostly just for fun, but that's here in the course documents. Okay, next up is gaining access to ALEX. So this is where you'll be spending most of your time in the course, where the homework and exams are. You'll access through this link here. The first time you click on it, it will most likely ask you to register if you haven't already been in the system before. If you have, for whatever reason, you can use your same previous login. If not, just enter your information. I'd recommend using an email address that you access regularly. So we will have to ultimately get this 6-week short access to the system. There is a 2-week temporary access code here that you can use. You can use this to gain access immediately, but eventually you'll need to get this $57 6-week access. I'd recommend getting it through the system because I think the Lone Star bookstore ups the price a little bit. This will probably be the cheapest option for you. So once you gain access to ALEX, it's going to first bring you through a couple tutorials and just some general information. So you can click through. I'm going to go ahead and skip this for now. It'll start you off with a tools tutorial that basically shows you how to work within this system. So how to input answers. I think it shows you how to graph some lines. So I'll skip this and let you go through it, but it's good to see how to generally interact with the system. And it might be familiar if you've done some math online before. And then the next thing it'll bring you to is this initial knowledge check. So this is actually going to ask you questions from throughout the entire course. So you'll most likely be given questions that you probably don't know how to answer. So just answer whatever you can. This isn't for a grade, it's just seeing what kind of background information everybody has already. So if you don't know an answer, you can just click I don't know or put in a guess, but do the best that you can, but don't worry too much about this. It won't really affect things. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this. Just click this. I don't think it'll let you do that, but because I'm an instructor, it lets me jump through here. This will be kind of the main page that it will bring you to, I think, when you log into ALEX. This is something they call the ALEX wheel, which is a way of like working on different topics. This is not going to be worked on in this course. We'll do something similar for 0106 for the pre-algebra co-requisite. But for introductory algebra, we'll be working just out of the assignment. So if you click on this in the top left and click on assignments, I would consider this really like the home page. This is probably what you want to go to immediately when you log in. So you can see all of the currently open assignments. I have all of the homeworks up until exam 1 already open, so you're welcome to work ahead as much as you are able to. You can see what type of assignment it is, and then the start date when it opens, the due date. And our first homework assignment I mentioned earlier is just to test out the lockdown browser and webcam functionality so that whenever you do eventually take exam 1, there won't be any technical issues. I can't go into this because it requires lockdown browser, and since I'm recording my screen, it's going to automatically cancel the recording as part of the functionality. So let me know if you have any issues with this. When you open it up, it's going to send you through, it's going to have you first set up your webcam. It has you take a picture, show your surroundings just to show that you don't have your notes or another computer open. There's a part where it asks you to present an identification, like an ID. You can just use anything like your college ID or just anything that identifies you, that you are the actual student in this class. That you're not getting someone else to take the exams for you or anything. So this will be our first homework, and that's due this upcoming Monday on the 14th at 11:59 p.m. So that'll be your first task after whenever you're logged into the system. So if you're having any trouble accessing this or completing this first homework assignment, let me know so we can get that sorted out. This will also prompt you to download Lockdown Browser if you haven't already, and you'll just select what kind of, it'll give you a link to the download site, and you'll select if you have like a Mac or a PC, what kind of operating system you use, and it's a pretty quick install, but let me know if there's any issues there too. And then let's just look quickly at, say, homework 2. This is like our first full homework assignment. So click start. I think it gives you a little prompting beforehand, maybe not. So you can go through the questions up at the top. It gives you the question layout. Some of them are multiple choice. Some of them you'll type in an answer. Some of them you'll graph, that'll be later on. And as you're working through these, there's a lot of resources here on the side that you can use. So you can either get an explanation or a guided solution. If you click on this, then it'll cancel this current question attempt and show you how to solve it. If you want to keep this current attempt, you can also just look at an example. And I know a lot of students like this functionality. So you can see a similar question with their description of how it's solved. Sometimes their description can be a little bit odd, so you may want to balance this with looking at the lecture notes and the videos, but you can use this to see how a similar question is solved. Also, like how they input their answer can be pretty useful, and then you can come back and apply that to your particular question. So that's really helpful. And then here, it gives you a link to the ebook. So when you click on this, it'll take you exactly to which chapter and section this is from. So this is from 2.1. If I click on this, it'll open the ebook for me, and I can read through the textbook section. Okay, let me close this. There's also a message center here, but I would really recommend just sending me directly an email through your student email, or maybe through D2L. And you can even like take a screenshot, explain, maybe show me some of your work, what you've done so far, and I can type out a reply. All right, so general look at the homework. I mentioned this is also where we will complete our exams, and you can see also a general link to the textbook here as well. All right, so back in D2L, if you go down to notes and videos, this is where I have the copy of the course schedule that has all of the links embedded. So you can download this if you'd like to have it saved, or you can access it through here. It's kind of small, so I'd recommend zooming in. But you can use this to eventually traverse the course week by week, and I'll take little clips of this, I think, and send it out with our weekly announcements. But say for our first week, our course introduction is this video, Alex onboarding is getting access to the system, and then completing that first like test homework assignment, and it has the due date. So starting next week, you can already start doing this week as well, which I'd actually recommend doing that. We'll start going through these sections. So I have my notes from my previous semester when I taught this class in person next to the particular like subsections of each week. So say like for 2.1 and 2.2, which would have been like Monday, Tuesday in person, I have a link that brings you to my notes from my in-person lecture. So you can use this as a means of studying and reviewing. Go back here. Actually, I think I had this opened up. Yeah, here we go. So that's general lecture notes. And then for each particular section, I have a video recorded of me just going through the examples and explaining each example from the textbook. So that's a YouTube video that will be linked there. And then I also put just a PDF of like the results of the video itself. So if you don't want to sit through and watch the video, you can just see like what the completed examples look like. And these are the examples from the textbook. The videos are, you may want to put them on like 2x speed. I can speak a little bit slowly sometimes, but you can find your way of using this. So I try to give out a lot of resources for all of our different learning styles. If you're more of a textbook reader, you can use the ebook. If you like videos, I have them posted here, or if you want more just like a brief summary PDF notes, you can access these. And so again, like all of these notes and videos would be relevant for homework 2, and then everything here would be relevant for homework 3, and so on. So you can use this to traverse the course and like go back and look at material. It's all kind of combined here. So you may want to save this or keep a link saved to it. Okay, so the last section in our D2L course is the exam work submission section. So after you complete an exam, you've done some written work working out the questions, you'll either take photos or scans of these and then upload to this assignment within D2L. So it's pretty straightforward. It's best if you can combine them into a single file if you know how to do that. Otherwise, just submit the multiple photos. And this is how I'll give you partial credit, and how I can also, it's another mechanism for seeing that you are actually working out the questions and working them out fully. So whenever you're done with the exam, you'll come here, submit the photos, and then I'll be able to give you some partial credit. So to view your grade, there's the grade section in D2L. Let me go into student view to see this. But the grade in D2L will just show you your overall grade in the class. Like, I don't have anything here yet, but it's just your ALEKS total grade. So that's already factored in the weights of the 30% homework, 70% exams. If you want to see specific individual assignment grades, you can do that within ALEKS itself. So when you're doing your homework, there's a section in there to view your grades, and you can see your overall grade in the course from there. So that's the general layout of our D2L page and how to access our homework system. If you are in the 0106 Pre-Algebra Co-Requisite course, I just want to briefly talk about this. This is meant to be some extra supplemental practice on some of the more fundamental topics, like working with fractions, order of operations, that sort of thing. It's really just a few extra modules that you'll need to complete within the ALEKS system, but it is technically a separate class. So when you enter into this D2L page, the setup will be very similar to our other course. I'll probably give just a single announcement. I'm going to combine announcements for both of these into just a single message in the Introductory Algebra announcements page. But this has general info, the course documents here. It has its own syllabus, which is pretty much the same information. There's no extra purchase that you need to make. And like when you log into this ALEKS system, they have it set up so it will be free, so there's nothing extra that you have to purchase. Let's just briefly look at this schedule, just to make sense of it. So I mentioned there's going to be some extra modules that you'll need to complete. It's basically going to be that wheel that we saw at the beginning of that other ALEKS course that we were looking at. So like whole numbers, integers, expressions and equations, fractions, decimals, so some of the more foundational things. And there's kind of two different grades going on here. One is this like progress goal percentage, which is just to keep you on track, meaning you should complete 33% of these by the 21st, 66% by the 28th, and 100% by the 4th of August. And then ultimately everything is due by that final date, by August 4th. Go back to course documents. So there's another link to get into this ALEKS course, which you will need to do separately from the other one. So it'll be a similar kind of process. Let me click on this and go into my own student view. So you should be able to gain access easily without making any additional purchase. It'll link to your existing account. Yours probably does not look like this, so let me go into my student view. And you'll have to go through a similar onboarding process as last time. So just to briefly show that again, you can, if you've already done these like tutorials, if it lets you skip, then that will be good. However, so let me skip the tools one, but you can go through again if you want. However, when it gives you this initial knowledge check, definitely it didn't really count for the introductory algebra, but if you do really well on this knowledge check, then it's actually going to clear out a lot of the modules for you already. So I'm going to skip it, but let's just say, like, let me skip the knowledge check, and let's just say I had like moderate knowledge. It's letting me do this as an instructor again. Notice it's already like filled out part of this wheel already. Like it already has me at 62%. So if you have a good foundation, you can clear out a lot of the topics already. See, it says I've already reached my first progress goal. And then to continue working on this, you can like click on some of these sections if you want. It usually will give you like an example question first, and then have you work on some practice questions. And it just has you do this until it feels like you've mastered the topic. I think you have to fill up this little progress bar. You can also click on assignments from the top left corner, like in our other class as well. So you can access the different modules here. So notice, based on what I said my knowledge was from the start, it's filled out like a portion of it. So that'll be the results of that initial knowledge check. It'll complete whichever ones it feels like you've already mastered. So again, this is just meant for supplemental help in practice on these more foundational skills. If you need help with these, just let me know, and I'm happy to help you out with them. You can come and visit during office hours, or if we need to meet virtually, we can work together. So this will just be some extra modules that you'll need to work on. You can, students usually complete this within like a 2-week period, so you can knock it out pretty quickly. But again, it's meant to be supplemental and to help you out on the more foundational topics. So if you have any questions around this, just let me know. That concludes our introduction to both introductory algebra and, if you're in it, the co-requisite pre-algebra 0106. If you have any remaining questions, just let me know. Send me an email. I'm about to send out the initial welcome email, so you're welcome to reply to that, or also in D2L. So this week, gain access to definitely the Alex course for introductory algebra. If you're in 0106, gain access as well. For 0308, you'll want to complete that first homework 1 assignment where you will test out your setup that you'll eventually use for exams. So let me know again if you have any questions. I'm really looking forward to this semester. I mentioned this earlier. I love what I do. I really love mathematics. I think it's a very deep and ancient practice, and there's a lot of benefits beyond just solving problems on a piece of paper. There's a lot of more subtle things that I think we can learn from this strange practice that we're going to embark on. So I hope to pass some of my enthusiasm towards math onto you, and it's going to be a great semester. Reach out if you have any questions.